What's up, Bumblebees? Welcome back to the Hive. Welcome back to the sticky hive. That's weird. We'll work on that, I guess. I'm Taylor McWaters, and here are the top 10 messed up events from the 1900s that actually happened. Yeah, real stuff. Here we go. Kicking off our list at number 10, John Lennon, or should I say Jay Lennon. Here we go. This one comes from 1966. Now, if you're a Beatles fan or a fan of the Lord, you're in for a treat. Here we go. You've definitely heard about this scandal, hopefully. During an interview with a UK newspaper, John Lennon started talking about the group and the band and how their popularity was on the rise. Normal band stuff, whatever, from John Lennon. But when Jay Lennon said the Beatles were more popular than Jay Christ, well, people got upset. He didn't mean anything bad out of it, per se. He just noticed that the Christianity charts were on a decline around the world. Meanwhile, the Beatles are selling out left, right, and center. I get what he's trying to say, but yeah, he definitely messed up here. When a US newspaper printed this exchange months later, Christians were upset. More popular than Jesus. Look, I know what he's trying to say, but still, you can't say that ever. Some radio stations actually stopped playing the band's music altogether. Christians gathered in bonfires to burn albums. Jay Lennon, not Jay Christ, but Jay Lennon, had to apologize numerous times at press conferences. He had to clear everything up just to move on, get some peace, get some forgiveness from the Lord. Number 9, Natalie Wood's death. Natalie Wood was one of the most talented in Hollywood. The actress was in her early 20s and already she was getting Oscar nominations. She's known for West Side Story and Rebel Without a Cause, but when she was 43 years old, Natalie was sailing with her husband, Robert Wagner. They were sailing off Catalina Island in California, and she lost her life. Now, her death was considered an accident at the time. With very little details, it was classified as an accidental drowning. But come 2013, it was changed. It was changed to drowning and other undetermined factors. Wood, her husband Wagner, and Christopher Walken, yeah, who knew? They were all aboard the 60-foot yacht at the time, November 28, 1981. The three actors had dinner in the harbor, then returned to the yacht to continue drinking and eating. Wood went missing around midnight, but the new information is that the couple had argued earlier that night. Now, this changes things, right? This changes the whole story. And according to a new report, that same report that was changed in 2013 after a different statement was released from the ship's captain, bruises and scratches that were considered fresh were seen on Wood's body. Wood was officially reported missing at 1:30 in the morning that night. So, a lot of questions, but I don't know. How do you solve that? How many years later? Number 8, the isolator. All right, a little different, but still definitely weird. This image may seem haunting at first, but it's actually quite ahead of its time. The isolator came long before noise-canceling headphones or lo-fi beats to study and relax to. This goofy-looking helmet was intended to block out noise and finally allow you to concentrate on finishing that Victorian-era paper due the next day. Now, this was back in the early to mid-1900s when inventor Hugh Gernsback worked hours and hours to create this study buddy to block out distractions in life. Now, this is a powerful image because the things that distract us today, like Instagram, Messenger, dating apps, YouTube, none of those things were even a concept back in 1925 when this device was revealed to the public. So you can only imagine what we need now, right? We need like the ultimate isolator. It's just a motorcycle helmet. It's just Daft Punk's helmet turned off, really. That's all we need. Number 7, Mary Pickford. Now, I mentioned earlier how these celebrity scandals often came from their love life and then they have to, maybe there's some stuff happening, maybe they were arguing before, that changes the game. Everyone cares about who's dating who and who's divorcing who. I mean, look how often we bring up Pete Davidson today. I mean, how's the guy doing it? Really, how's he doing it? Now, as hard as it is, we can't judge people off a headline or a scandal or whatever we see. We don't know the full story at all, regardless of what it looks like or what we want it to look like. The silent film star divorced her husband, Owen Moore, around the 1920s, and then she married a man named Douglas Fairbanks right after. Now, when I say right after, I mean less than a month right after. Like Pete Davidson speed. I'll admit that would interest me as well. I'd have my own opinion, sure. Now, the public, at first, they weren't happy with Mary Pickford. They made assumptions about how long this affair had been going on. Oh, she was married, how could she, yada yada yada. Her career was actually on the line because of this scandal, and that was until Owen Moore was confirmed to be a not so great guy. Turns out throughout their marriage, he was towards Mary. So she went from being almost canceled with no job to the most courageous for telling her story, how the tides have turned. Number 6, portable holding cell. Prisoner transport is always a risky game, right? I have YouTube, I see some stuff that goes on online, it's crazy. When out in public in any way, the odds that something goes wrong or they escape back into the real world and run away, it goes up significantly. The movie Con Air is about this exact situation unfolding. A timeless classic. Nicolas Cage, so good. Dave Chappelle's in that too, wild. Well, back in the 1920s, we didn't have SWAT SWAT teams move around the worst of the worst. Instead, we had bike cops with cages. It's pretty funny. This portable jail cell is an early version of our modern day police car. The concept was perfect, but the fact that this guy is sitting in a cell and can just grab the officer on the bicycle at any given moment, that's not so ideal. The fact that he's less than a foot away, that's not relaxing at all. Would you ever ride in one of these? I can barely do a sidecar in a motorcycle, let alone pegs on a bike. I don't know. If I'm not riding, I'm not on the bike, ever. Number 5, the Prohibition era. The Prohibition era was a time where there were restrictions placed on the consumption of alcohol, which of course was done with a ban being placed on the production, importation, transportation, whatever portation, and sale of alcohol by the US government, all from 1920 to 1933. A real boring time. Not really. No one listened to it. Of course, this ban certainly didn't stop people from producing or consuming alcohol. It was just done in sneakier, unsafer ways. The black market for alcohol was booming as people began to drink redistilled industrial alcohol instead of, normal drinkable stuff. This is all pretty well known, but one super sketchy thing that's not widely known is something that the government agencies did to curb the black market sales. They poisoned the industrial alcohol on purpose that was being repurposed for drinking. So yeah, some villain stuff right there. Not just poison in a way where the consumer would get sick and maybe not want to drink it anymore, which is already horrendous enough, but they poisoned the alcohol with lethal chemicals. It is thought that by the time that Prohibition ended, at least 10,000 people died from this act alone. This event is still one of the strangest and deadliest decisions made by government officials today. I mean, cut to today, everything's legal now it seems, but there was a time where it wasn't. Number 4, not every state. Being a Canadian at least, we're seeing things become legal all of a sudden, and that's weird. I'm 28 years old and I'm like, what? This is legal now? Okay, that's weird. It's odd, but we saw this happen in Prohibition as well. Many governors at the time refused to throw away money towards enforcing or policing this alcohol ban. Maryland, for example. Okay, Maryland never even enacted the enforcement code in the first place and eventually earned a reputation as the most stubborn anti-prohibition state in the Union. Nice. New York followed and repealed its measures in 1923, and slowly but surely it all just went away. But some states did the opposite. They were all for the ban. Yeah, nerds. Kansas and Oklahoma remained dry until 1948 and 1958, and Mississippi remained alcohol-free until 1966. That's like 33 years after the passage of the 21st Amendment. Like, guy, can we click refresh? Can we move on? I'm very thirsty. Thank you. Number 3, the Kensington system. All right, Queen Victoria, let's talk about you a little bit. Victoria was brought up under the Kensington system, which if you haven't heard of it before, it's pretty awful. Yeah, I thought I was grounded growing up. This is Victoria's mother, Duchess Victoria of Kent, created this Kensington system to control her daughter's life. I mean, she literally isolated this child from friends or family members, you name it. Her mother did this all to keep her pure. The system sounds awful. Her mother would monitor her every single action, including who she can see or even speak to. Victoria only had 2 friends growing up her entire life. She had her half-sister, Princess Feodora of Leiningen, and the Duchess attendant, Sir John Conroy. Oh, and the Duchess's attendant, Sir John Conroy, well, his daughter, Victoria. 2 friends your entire life. That's awesome. I mean, I only had 3 friends growing up, but 2, that's just cruel. She shared a room with her mother until she was queen. She literally couldn't walk down the hall to go to the washroom without her mother being by her side. Victoria has reflected on her childhood, and she said that she hated John Conroy for manipulating her mother. She actually referred to him as demon incarnate. That's a hefty burn from Victoria. Number 2, Al Capone's brother. What's going on with that guy during the Prohibition era? What's the other side of the family doing this whole time? We don't hear about him. Siblings can be the exact same. My brother and I were the same person pretty much. Al Capone and his brother, they had to separate a little bit. They had to play different paths for a bit. Not homies for a bit, it seems. A little different. Al Capone's oldest brother was a prohibition enforcement agent. Yeah, how ironic is that? Al built a criminal empire built on illegal liquor in Chicago back in the 1920s, but Vincenzo, the eldest of the 6 Capone brothers, he had changed his name to Richard Joseph Hart, of course to hide his identity, and after working for a bit in the circus, Vincenzo settled in Homer, Nebraska in 1922, and eventually he was a special officer assigned to investigate bootlegging. Now after he lost his badge on suspicion of theft, Vincenzo reunited with the Capone family in 1940. He met back up with Al in Miami and started to get in on that family cash that he's been missing out on. And finally, number 1, ice mask. Today you can go on Amazon and get a therapeutic gel face mask for like $20. If you're stressed out or trying to avoid puffy eyes, bam, throw this in the freezer for a hot minute and you're set, just like that. You can make your own aloe vera honey gel mask if you feel like. Just click any vlogger that says the word wellness in their bio and well, good luck. Back in the 40s, Hollywood makeup artist Max Factor Jr. created the first ever face mask to reduce facial puffiness. Yeah, what a magician. And it looked way cooler too. Again, pun intended. They didn't use freezer gels back then, instead just, well, a bunch of ice cube shaped containers that froze individually on your face. It was an ice cube tray mask, rather. It was actually invented to fight hangovers. That's one of the main reasons. How fun is that? Now, it's a shame that this design never got, caught on, because the ones today, they're no good. They're too cute. They're not cold enough or big enough. Imagine busting this mask out during a lecture. Imagine having this underneath the isolator. You could do anything you wanted. You can invent anything you wanted. I don't know, sound off below. I've been your host, Taylor McWaters. Thank you for joining us on Bumblebee, and I'll see you next time. Peace.